watching Malc Benjy. You lucky son of a bitch. Subscribe.
Hello and welcome to Malc Benjy's Vidcast. I'm Malc.
And I'm Benjy.
And we'll dive straight into it.
Dive straight in, absolutely.
First up, some movie news. New movies.
New movies. The Cannes Film Festival has just finished this weekend. And the winner of the Palme d'Or, which is the sort of the top prize, goes to Jane Campion's film.
I have not written it on the notes.
Good. In the interest of trying to sort of stay more film related and rather than just focusing on comic book films or blockbusters, we thought we'd try and be clever, and it's backfired quite spectacularly. Jane Campion, of course, is the Oscar-winning director behind The Piano. Good.
It's the Jane Campion film that isn't The Piano.
Yes, and she's done really well with it. It's good, apparently.
It's so good that we...
when it comes out on general release in Britain, we will watch it and then review it.
Watch it and review it, absolutely.
It's probably going to be awful, though. She's a big chick flick kind of girl. Not that chick flicks are generally bad, but The Piano, come on.
I have never seen The Piano.
It's whingy. It's a big whingy
Is it
film.
whingy?
It's very whingy.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
Comic books! Blockbusters!
Yeah!
Yes!
Lots of news on that front.
Yeah.
Busy time.
Gareth Edwards,
of course, quite recently successfully helmed Godzilla. Successfully, we think so.
Reviewed
later. But that did well enough that he's been snapped up for at least one, possibly more Godzilla sequels.
And also,
tantalisingly,
he has been signed up by Disney/Lucasfilm to helm a Star Wars spin-off.
Yeah.
Not one of the numbered episodes, because as far as I'm aware, they're all going to J.J. Abrams. Yeah. Or at least Episode 8 has not got a director attached at all.
Episode 8 will pen the results of Episode 7, I imagine.
But he is directing one of the spin-offs, which may be, you heard it here first, a Boba Fett film or a young Han Solo film. Which could be good. Shia LaBeouf will be cast as the young Han Solo. He won't.
What worries me is Han Solo will appear periodically in the film and be really awesome. Yeah. But for most of the film, we'll have Aaron Taylor-Johnson just staring blankly into the camera.
Yeah. And the problem is also, if they do cast Shia LaBeouf as the young Han Solo, wouldn't they be better having someone who is famous? Because he's not. Oh yeah, he's not famous.
I should have said who when you said that.
Yeah.
Side down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
He's not famous anymore.
Good.
Yeah. But of course,
Godzilla 2, Star Wars. Yeah. Good year for Gareth Edwards.
Yes, very much. Very good year. Biggest opening of the year, I think.
Will you stop talking about Godzilla's arsehole? Come on. Biggest opening of the year. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Although, this weekend. Is X-Men already out in America, or is it?
I couldn't tell you.
This weekend might change that.
So this is the 20... What's the date today?
24th.
24th of March, so we're dating this episode for as a historical document. So as of the 24th of March, X-Men's just opened in the UK.
We can't do the not too distant future anymore.
No.
We've
X-Men's just opened this weekend, and I think it's either open the same time or it'll be opening next week. Yeah. Films don't seem to open in America first anymore. I don't know what's going on.
It tends to be worldwide, or...
Is there a big marketing department has bought the UK and is using us as a huge focus test audience?
I've read a lot of theories online, and I think part of it is all to do with public holidays where they are. So things like avoiding, not that it is Super Bowl weekend, but avoiding Super Bowl time in America and so on and so forth. And then over here it's things like capitalising on, I think the early May releases are all trying to get the May Day bank holiday,
school holidays and
things.
Okay, all right.
So
that's fine. It seems to me fine.
Yeah, it works in our favour more often than it doesn't.
So Godzilla, biggest opening of the year so far. Superseded by X-Men.
Well, possibly
Days of Future Past. Which X-Men's opened very big.
It's opened very big, and because it's the full weekend they take for biggest opening.
Plus, it's the Wednesday and Thursday screenings if they happen.
So I think the X-Men could take it, but at the moment Godzilla has it, which was a surprise. I mean, everyone expected Captain America, Spider-Man, X-Men to have these big openings, and I think
then Godzilla
did as well. But then
trashed them.
Yeah, which is good. I picture these big openings as like skyscrapers, and Godzilla's just knocking them down. Brilliant.
It's interesting that Godzilla was an unknown quantity because it's a reboot of a foreign film franchise, which, while very, very well known, has not done well box office wise. It's also directed by a guy whose only other feature was a very sort of under the radar sleeper hit.
Yeah.
So it really was a big question mark compared to Spider-Man 2, Iron Man, not Iron Man, Captain America 2, which is
X-Men 7.
X-Men with Bryan Singer's return.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things here which Godzilla has been very clever and very, very not fortunate because but very unexpectedly has come in and done good things.
There's an Underdogzilla. Sorry.
Both films will be reviewed in this vidcast, so stay tuned.
Well, I think before we get to sad comic book movie news, let's do the in between comic book movies. It might be happy, might be sad.
Go for it.
Batman Superman has a title. I'm going to play devil's advocate. There were a number of URLs booked by Warner Brothers earlier this year, or was it late last year? In the last 6 months, anyway. And they were all terrible sounding. They were all even terrible sounding for like the mobile app video game that would have been released to coincide with the movie. It was, what was it? Man of Steel, Darkest of Night, and stuff like that. And at night with a K, like the Dark Knight. It was, they were dreadful. This is much better than any of those.
It is. Dawn of Justice. I'm not going to play devil's advocate.
Well, I figured you
I think it's rubbish. I think that what's basically happened is they've turned their sequel to Superman / reboot of Batman into essentially a 2.5 hour teaser trailer for the Justice League movie, and it smacks of desperation, and it smacks of them just trying to jump on the Avengers bandwagon. And they've been saying, and DC fans have been saying, "Oh, he's not jumping on the Avengers bandwagon." Blah blah. It now clearly is.
It is, yeah.
And I think that both Superman and Batman and the worlds that they live in and the universe, the cinematic universe that's being created, deserve better.
Yeah.
It should have been called Batman versus Superman. They shouldn't have had Wonder Woman in it. She should have been in her own film.
Absolutely.
And then they do a Justice League movie where Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, The Flash, etc. all get together and do their movie thing. You're doing it wrong, Warner Brothers.
Again,
you're doing it wrong.
And can I just say a little thing? I really want it to be Superman versus Batman. Batman Superman's easier to say. Batman's a bigger deal, but it's Superman's sequel, or at least, well, it started life as Superman's sequel.
I don't agree, but I completely see and respect your opinion. Yeah. Which is unusual.
Thank you. Yeah, we usually either completely agree or there's blood. Very rarely.
Oh, there will be blood.
Though.
But I respect you.
This is actually his milkshake. See what I did there? What else was I going to say? Yeah, Man of Steel, I think, for all its flaws, and if you regular viewers and listeners will know we think there are many. It was good enough that it deserved its own sequel. I think I'm a little. I
would say the same about Superman Returns, though.
Well, yeah, so would I. I was all kinds of psyched for Man of Steel. You remember the frenzy that was me in the weeks before Man of Steel came out. But I certainly agreed. I enjoyed Superman Returns enough that had they made a sequel to that instead of a reboot, I'd have been on board as well. Yeah, it just. I was excited when they announced Batman. I was like, yeah, finally the two of them together. But a small part of me did think, oh, but I kind of want Supes to get his own movie. And then as it's gone on, and Wonder Woman's in it, Cyborg's in it. Cyborg's in it. He's not even in the Justice League.
I have no idea who Cyborg is.
Well,
is he a cyborg?
Exactly, yes. But this is my point. I know who Cyborg is because I'm a massive nerd. I'm not a massive enough nerd because I'm sure we'll get comments saying, I think you'll find Cyborg is in the Justice League now.
In episodes 426 from 1980.
I'm sure he is, but he's predominantly known as a member of the Teen Titans. And The Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter you mentioned, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, they're predominantly known as members of the Justice League or the Justice Society. So why are Teen Titans characters getting put into the Justice League movies ahead of Justice League characters that Warner Brothers haven't made movies about yet? It's just madness. Sorry.
I think this is the first time I've ever heard that niche and a complaint about the Justice League movie coming up.
I've spent many years in the Marvel camp, and this is me
we should
dipping my
move
toe
on.
in the
We
DC
should move on
water,
for time reasons.
For time reasons, yes.
Lest we become a DC official DC vidcast.
So in official Marvel news, then jumping to the other side of superheroes.
Edgar Wright, perhaps the most exciting director-film combination in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has dropped out.
Yes.
Rumour has it it's
Parted
because
ways.
of script rewrites and producerial interruption involvement. But Edgar Wright's no longer doing Ant-Man, which is really sad news because Edgar Wright is amazing.
Yeah.
He's made 4 brilliant films. This could well have been his 5th brilliant film, and now it's back up in the air. It's out in the open. Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows?
Well, the thing is, even if it's really good, even if it ends up being the best one in the MCU yet, which is unlikely but possible, right? We're always going to wonder now. It's Vincent Ward's Alien 3 all over again. In fact, it's David Fincher's Alien 3 all over again. But you know, no matter how good this one ends up being, I'm just going to wonder. A bit like Del Toro's Hobbit, as well. You know, what was it? What were
Neil
we actually going to
Blomkamp's
get?
Halo.
Yeah.
So this is joining the annals of films that could have been.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to our Twitter feed at Malc and Benjy. That's MalcandBenjy.
Because you have to.
And when I like that, we should do that in future. We should rehearse that more. And when the new director's announced, we will either tweet it or retweet it from the official Marvel channel or whatever. So stay tuned to Malc and Benjy, or just you're probably linked to the same Twitter accounts we are. So just keep an eye on news.
Fair warning: if the new director is announced as Brett Ratner, keep off the internet because I will be setting the bugger on fire.
You will hear the reverberations around the world.
But
Right. Seth MacFarlane's new film, A Million Ways to Die in the West, has recently revealed via a teaser trailer a wonderful little Easter egg cameo from Christopher Lloyd. Apparently, we've seen it. There's an Easter egg sort of throwaway gag where
Fenster Adams walks into the
where Seth MacFarlane walks into a little sort of barn, and there is Doc Brown working on the DeLorean. It's a lovely little joke. It's probably going to be nothing but a throwaway gag, knowing Seth MacFarlane as fans of Family Guy do.
I kind of hope it is, because otherwise
it kind of makes me excited. I mean, I think we both think the same about Ted. It was all right. The same about Seth MacFarlane's career. It's some really good jokes linked together by terrible jokes and you know, very uncomfortable, politically incorrect, you know, borderline racist, sexist.
He kind of unsuccessfully straddles the same gap that Matt and Trey straddle, or he unsuccessfully tries to straddle between satire and
he is the guy in college who listens to the jokes Matt and Trey says and then tries to say them, but just comes across as being a bit of a douchebag while still being chucklesome.
Is he like when you do an awesome pun and then 10 minutes later I do a rubbish one? Am I Seth MacFarlane?
No.
Oh. Okay, good. Thank you.
No.
So
there we go. There's our news.
I think we'll see it.
Yeah.
We'll see it.
So
we'll give it a fair go.
Yeah. And also, what we might do is double bill it with the Jane Campion film.
That would be amazing.
And then we've got this really sort of, you know, artistically credible, wonderful film by a very mature and respected filmmaker.
And the Jane Campion one.
I knew you were going to do that. Even as I said it, I knew you were going to make this joke. So yes, we'll do that maybe in the near future.
Yeah.
So on to our movie reviews.
Reviewzilla.
Will we do it in chronological order?
I think so.
So,
Godzilla. No. Chronological. No, wait, no. I was going to go for in-universe chronological order. And
well, then it's still Godzilla.
But it's still because
54, yeah.
54, yeah. Godzilla, yeah.
Yeah. According to many, the god has been put back in Zilla.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just a very, very quick plot synopsis. Spoilers alert, by the way, because,
massive spoilers.
Because even if we're not spoiling it, there are still spoilers. Massive spoilers. 300-foot tall spoilers.
This is more spoilers in it than I would have expected. It's not twisty-turny, but
the advert suggests there's one spoiler, and then there are more than one spoiler.
There are many more, yeah.
So this film is a reboot / remake / continuation, I suppose, given the time periods, of the 1954 Japanese film Gojira, which was called in the West Godzilla. Godzilla, which is what we all know and
I
love.
know the character,
It is
yeah.
not connected to the 1998 Roland Emmerich Dean Devlin effort at all, thank God, Zilla. And it kind of doesn't really touch upon any of the previous films except the sly nod wink reference to 1954, which is when the first film came out. It's the story of humanity's struggle with mutos, massively unknown terrestrial organisms.
Is it unknown or unidentified?
Unidentified
Massive unidentified
terrestrial organisms.
Yeah.
And their conflict with the king of monsters, Godzilla. That's right. Not since 1954, well, with the exception of 1998, not since 1954 was Godzilla the only monster in a Godzilla movie, and this thankfully keeps that trend
going,
up.
yeah.
Godzilla is, even though responsible, as you would expect, from massive destruction, he is the hero of the movie.
He's basically Superman in Man of Steel. He levels the city, but he takes out the bad guy doing it.
He's
so
forgivable
fine.
because he's not on a human scale. Man, Superman should have known better. Godzilla's forgivable, but the same thing.
But yeah.
So basically, we have in 1999 a disaster at a nuclear station in Japan, mirroring Fukushima and other such things, giving it a very sort of relevant kind of vibe.
Yeah, there's a lot of
that, isn't there? And Bryan Cranston, who plays a scientist, his wife is a casualty of it, and he spends the next sort of 15 years, bad maths, he spends the next 15 years trying to figure out what it is, and he just finds out what it is when they turn up again, and his son, played by Kick-Ass, has to basically, do something about it.
Do some heroing.
And then Godzilla shows up, and Godzilla's not, well, this is spoiler territory, Godzilla basically fights the monsters. Yeah. That's the film, that's what you're paying for your ticket.
That's the bang for your buck.
Yeah. Is that a fair synopsis?
That's
it's
a fair
not
synopsis.
A deep, complex story, is it?
No.
It's basically well covered.
Yeah.
So.
How do you want to do this? Do you want to lead with the good, then with the not so good, or the other way around?
Let's do good, bad, and then introduce our new feature, the rating system.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the good Zilla. Godzilla himself is brilliant, as are the Mutos.
Yes.
The creatures, the design of them is really cool. The Mutos are a bit Cloverfieldy, a bit Super 80.
Little bit Cthulhu-ish.
Yeah.
They harken back to a lot of previous cinema and literary monsters.
Yeah.
But are gargantuan. They are huge and they're brilliant.
They're necessarily scary and badass, and you buy them as... Yeah. Godzilla is amazing. Brilliant. He looks so good. He's
back into his man in a suit formulation, not his Velociraptor on steroids kind of thing from the...
Absolutely. And when he moves slowly.
Yes.
It's quickly for him. It's him and the Mutos are moving at what they would deem a normal pace.
Yeah.
But because the film is shot from our... It's not a POV film, but all the shots are kind of anchored where a human eye could realistically be.
Yeah.
And looking up. So it's all...
The one thing that he has got most successfully, I think, and I think this is mirroring your point, or at least repeating your point, is that Gareth Edwards knows about scale.
Yeah.
Whereas 1998 Zilla basically whipped about like a Velociraptor on speed.
Literally, you could have digitally replaced the skyscrapers with kitchen worktops.
Yeah.
It's the end of Jurassic Park.
Absolutely. Whereas this Godzilla is slow and lumbering and he moves like a giant monster would.
It's like in the film he feels every bit as big as he looks in the posters.
Yeah.
Whereas in 98 he looked really big in the posters and then he just felt like it was a lizard running around.
Yeah.
And
yeah. He's great. And the scale also, I like, one thing that I mentioned, I don't want to sort of like just bang on about it, but one thing that Cloverfield brought out that most monster movies have done since is the idea that when there is destruction there is dust, and this all stems back to news footage of 9/11, the first time really that we'd seen destruction on that scale in real life.
Urban destruction.
And now fiction is taking that idea and the dust that surrounds all the destruction of the monsters is really sort of affecting because of that, because anyone who either was involved in it or followed it on the news at the time, it brings it back to that and it makes it serious, it makes it relevant.
It all has consequence. The size of the creatures and the actions of the creatures and the actions of humans in response to creatures all has consequence, and it feels a lot weightier than the 98 movie because of that. Yeah. And that's true in visually, like Benji's saying with the dust and that, but and also true in the script, I think, for the most part. Yeah. That everything has a consequence, and it's a lot easier for a film to kind of stand on two legs when it has that. Yeah. I
think the fights are really good. the fight between the monsters. They have a sense of build-up. One of the things that I complained about Man of Steel is that the fight at the end, there's no building up, there's no build-up in it. There's no sort of cause and effect. It's just two people punching each other and then neck snap. Whereas what a fight needs is to start and then build up and build up and build up until eventually, even if you don't want to know who's going to win until the very end, there needs to be something, you know. And this has that. They appear, they fight each other. One gets the upper hand and the other gets the upper hand. Then, as more things and powers are unleashed, it gets better and better until the final, you know, sort of climax of the fight, and it earns the climax. It earns that big moment at the end.
Very satisfying.
Fist pumping,
to watch.
absolutely, it's brilliant.
It's so good.
Yeah, some of the problems that I'll talk about in a few minutes, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, are based around the script. But I think as far as the direction goes, he is the perfect choice to have made this movie. Yeah. He's really earned his stripes on this film, on the action, on the editing, on making a fight between two giant CGI monsters feel real and important and relevant and relatable.
It's surprisingly funny. It's not sort of littered with jokes, but one of my favourite moments, and it's actually something that a lot of people didn't like because of one of the go-to complaints has been an apparent lack of monsters, and we'll get onto that in a minute, or a lack of monster action. But the first time Godzilla and Muto come face to face, we get a brilliant shot of Godzilla's foot, and then it pans up and we see him and he roars at Muto, and then it immediately cuts away to the family of Aaron Taylor Johnson's house, and his wife is in the kitchen preparing something and his son is asleep on the couch, and news footage of this fight is on the telly, so you can just see it on a little screen in the screen, and they're fighting, they're properly going at each other, but you can hardly tell what's going on, and it's really funny because you have the and the roar, and you go and then it cuts away and it's played for laughs, and it works. If it did that throughout the film, or if that was the final fight, obviously that would be a problem.
Really annoying, but
it's actually a really, really funny moment. It's a nice kind of deft touch, I think. A restraint that many filmmakers, Michael Bay, would never dream of showing.
Absolutely. Bing! Each time you see Godzilla, it ramps up the tension like that really well until the final battle. I think one of the complaints, can we go up with this now? Yeah, I think one of the complaints is that he's not in it enough. He's only in 2 or 3 scenes, and that may be true. Someone said 2 scenes. I think The Guardian said it, but no, he's in 3 or 4 scenes. If
you're counting when you can just see the spine sticking out of the water,
I'm not.
When you can just see the
I would not.
See, I would, because they excited me, but
he's in 2 or 3 scenes properly.
Yeah.
It's not a problem because A, the later scenes are quite lengthy, and B, it's really good filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know?
Can I leap to my go-to examples? People say, I read a lot of comments, and in fairness, when we came out of the cinema, I did say I wish Godzilla had been in it more, and then we spoke about it a little bit, and within 10 minutes I think I thought about it a bit more, and I went, no, do you know what, one of my beefs is why I felt that way, but when people say Godzilla's hardly in it, he should be in it more, do you know what I say? Yeah, you're right. Nobody liked Jaws, nobody liked Alien, nobody liked Jurassic Park. Wait, no, 3 of the most successful movies of their time. Yeah. And again, in all 3, there's 15 minutes of dinosaur footage in Jurassic Park. 15. And it's Jurassic Park. It's dwarfed by the dinosaur footage in the Jurassic Park sequels, which are both vastly inferior. Alien, there's a lot less screen time for the creature, and Jaws, it's probably on a par with Alien in terms of how many shots the shark is actually in.
And in the 98 Godzilla, he's in it all the time. And it's dreadful. So the amount you see and the number of scenes he's in means nothing
as long as it's
as opposed to the quality of the scenes. And you know, like I said, the scenes are lengthy. It's not like he only just appears at the end. You know, there is enough Godzilla. There is enough Godzilla.
There's no such thing as too much or too little. It's just whether it's well done. I'm sure in the sequel to this, he'll be in it more. Yeah. Because the budget will be bigger, and because the mystery won't necessarily be there because it's a sequel. So I don't think he'll be in it all the time like he was in 98, but it'll probably be more than what we got this year. But as long as it's well written and well constructed,
well, here's a prediction.
It'll be okay
for 2017 Malc Benjy.
Okay.
I think he'll be in it more, and it'll be a worse film. I'm going to cut that into our 2017 vidcast, and we'll see if it's true.
No matter how, I really hope you love it and I hate it. and then we have to splice in that footage. That'll be great. But yeah, I think that I'm being very arrogant here because I'm going to project my beef onto everyone else. I think all the people who are complaining Godzilla weren't in it and it wasn't in it enough, they're not upset about that. They just think they are. They're actually upset about what I was upset about, and I feel okay saying that because that was me. As I just said, you know, as soon as the lights came up, I was like, Godzilla wasn't in it enough. 10 minutes later, I realised what my real problem was, and I think if everyone else thinks about it, it's with the other examples we gave there: Jurassic Park, Alien, Jaws. So the title creature or creatures isn't in the film very often. We get teasing glimpses throughout the film, and then big reveals towards the end. True in all three cases. And in all three cases, it's not a problem because we really care about the human characters. Arguably not as much in Jurassic Park. It's a really good film, but the characters aren't maybe quite as engaging as Ripley or Chief Brody. But I'd still say it's true. You enjoy Jeff Goldblum and Richard Attenborough's performances very much. Sam Neill's not bad, and you know I think.
I put Sam Neill higher than not bad.
Okay, yeah, well.
And Laura Dern.
And Bob Peck and...
Well, no, Bob Peck.
Newman.
Yeah.
But, yeah, my point is, when you don't feel the lack of the creatures as keenly, because A, the film's still revolving around them, which is also true of this new Godzilla, and B, you're engaged you're still engaged in the human dramas or plot.
One of the best scenes in Jaws is when they're in the boat getting drunk around the table.
Yeah! Exactly.
And there's none of that little of that in Godzilla.
Yeah, there's very little of that in Godzilla, that's true. And yeah, this is my thing. And it's not that we don't care at all about the characters in Godzilla, but they're not... the most engaging one, spoilers, massive spoilers. Should we?
Quite recent.
It's difficult to make the point otherwise, but yeah.
Can we just be vague? Oh well.
The lion's share of screen time, I'll flip to the other side of the equation. The lion's share of screen time, by a huge margin, is given to Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
Right. Yeah.
Not any of the other actors. They all get things to do. Cranston, Watanabe, Olsen. They all have things to do.
Sally Hawkins
is
a phenomenal actress. She's
yeah. Well, the thing is, Sally Hawkins and Ken Watanabe. And I would argue Bryan Cranston, to a certain degree, those three characters could have been one character and most of the scenes would have played out the same, apart from the fact that Cranston is also Taylor-Johnson's father. So that dynamic would of course have changed.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the human scenes revolve around Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who I liked in Kick-Ass and I haven't seen in anything else, but by his reputation he's very good. He's at least Kick-Ass good in most things. He's not very good in this. He's just cold and distant and...
I want to weigh in here with one of my gripes that I think will give a reason to your gripe. I think one of the major problems with this film is the script. I think that it relies far too much on monster movie cliche and it relies far too much on plot mechanics, and that's why Aaron Taylor-Johnson is not as engaging as he should be for a main character, because he's not given the material that would allow him to be, you know, to be that engaging presence. The script that Quint and Brody and Richard Dreyfuss get in Jaws is phenomenal. The script that Jeff Goldblum plays with, it's amazing, you know. What was the other one? Alien is a brilliant script.
It's quite tight.
It's really tight. This is very, very simple, very shallow, very move bomb A to point B and detonate to kill monster C. There's not enough characterization in there that you would want to follow the human characters, I think.
And it's a shame because you've got a bunch of really good actors.
Yeah.
Even in the minor roles, the military general later on is it was Rentadad in '98.
Yeah.
It's David Strathairn from the Bourne sequels.
Yeah.
And many other things, but I know him from the Bourne sequels, and he's great in those.
He's brilliant. He's a great actor. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not bad in this, but he just gets nothing to do or it's deliver exposition.
For my money, Ken Watanabe or Bryan Cranston, or as you said, an amalgamation of those characters into one character, should have been the lead.
Yeah.
And they are sidelined in favour of a soldier who does not have enough weight to carry, in my mind, the human portion of the film.
It's like Kick-Ass 3, Dave joins the military, forgets how to act, and occasionally bumps into Godzilla.
See, I disagree. He's not a bad actor.
No, he's not a bad actor. No,
there's no point where he quickens it up.
It's an underwritten character.
Yeah, he's just got nothing to do. He's a focal point for the camera.
Yeah. I read a comment online that said that apparently his character is meant to be cold and emotionally distant because he's traumatised by the events of 1999, which certainly makes sense. I won't say why exactly he should be. But if you were in his position, you would have a reason it would affect you emotionally, very much so. But the script doesn't play with that at all. We have to read that ourselves and not
in interviews.
It's not even like the audience needs to put in the required level of work there. You have to go out and do bloody research after you've seen the film to figure that out, and that's a problem. If they'd made more of that, his scenes with Elizabeth Olsen, who's playing his wife,
who is also very it's not her best work.
They could have played with that. She could have been saying, why are you always so, or something like that, and then we say, oh, okay, so he is a bit of a robot, but it doesn't. So it just feels like he's been a bit of a robot, which clearly leads to people like me saying he's a bad actor. Maybe he isn't.
Maybe he's so much of a robot in the sequel he's going to be Mechagodzilla. That would be amazing. Elizabeth Olsen has done wonderful work. You would not believe it from a sister of Mary-Kate and Ashley. But she's a really good actress.
That's 2 sisters, not 3. I know it sounded like 3.
Mary-Kate
and Ashley.
But she has done some great work. She's a very fine actress, and all she gets to do in this film is look up above the camera and look scared, and she does that very, very well. But that's not enough for a character.
They both fall into cliches, I think, and against the script. The script makes her worried wife and mum, and nothing else, and it makes him action hero, and nothing else, and. We needed, which would be fine if they were given the requisite amount of screen time that those character tropes traditionally get, but they're not. They're given the screen time of dramatic leads in a very serious film. And that's a problem.
So, to sum up, brilliant Godzilla. Kind of dull humans. Overall, a successful beginning of a new franchise, beginning of a new reboot.
Together, very pretty to look at.
We'll
be seeing the sequel.
Don't buy the script to read, and don't go and see it if you're really interested in human interaction. But if you want a monster mash, you could do a lot worse. Okay, Malc's suggestion, and I certainly think it's a great idea. We're going to introduce a new feature, which is a star rating system, just so that there's no confusion left as to whether you should see a film based on Malc Benjy's recommendation. Although the amount of spoilers we throw out there, you really should have seen it before you watch the video.
We encourage everyone to see it before you watch it.
Do you want to explain the system?
What I proposed is that we each give a score out of 5. And being as there's 2 of us, that then gives you a Malc Benjy score out of 10.
10. Good maths. Quick maths.
Good maths. Better than your 14 years instead of 15 earlier.
Stop it.
Just saying. Stop it. You started.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to do. It's going to lead in the future to embarrassing situations where one of us is thrashing out a 1 star just to wind the other one up, so that a really good film ends up getting a maximum of 6.
I wouldn't do that.
I would. No, I wouldn't. But I think it's going to be fair to this film. We try it out.
Let's try it out.
So what?
I would give Godzilla a very solid and foot stomping 3 out of 5.
Okay. I would also give Godzilla a very solid and foot-stomping 3 out of 5. I think Better Humans would have been the difference between a 3 and a 4. Much Better Humans would have been the difference between a 4 and 5. But I mean, 5's going to be rare.
5 will be rare. Well, certainly it'll be rare from both of us. I think we might get excited about a film to give it a 5 and the other person be a more realistic 4. That might happen to give it a 9. 6 out of 10, that's very solid. That's 2/3. That's like a high C or a low B by a school rating.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's good.
I would say anything that's over a 5.
5 or over, you should see
worth
it.
Watching, worth watching is definitely what I would apply to Godzilla. So there you go.
So let's move on to the next of our 2 review. I knew these a bit. Let's move on to the second of our double bill. That's slightly better. Right.
And it harkens back to the early days of Malc Benjy.
Yes, it does. If you were there at the beginning.
In joke.
God bless you.
So X-Men: Days of Future Past. Long time coming. Pardon the pun. Oh my word.
Yes.
The excitement level for this was very high.
It was
Man of Steel high for me.
It was for me as well. yeah, it's easily up there with your later Marvel movies, with your Star Wars prequels. You know, it's the 7th in a up and down but very successful franchise.
I'm going to call it right now. Fox's Avengers. I'm saying it. I said it.
I'd go with that.
You can splice this in a few years when I go, Days of Future Past sucked. Fox's Avengers. That's the quote on the DVD cover from Malc Benjy.
Yeah.
Or from Malc anyway. Yeah, it's really very good.
Yeah.
It gives me hope in a bizarre tangent. It gives me hope for Star Wars 7.
Okay.
And there's a weird way I've got to this, but what I've said many times is Star Wars 7 is the formula I've always wanted for a Star Wars movie.
Okay.
Plot by George Lucas, who I've never had an issue with his plots. Script by Lawrence Kasdan. Directed by a filmmaker we know can do good films. Last time that happened, Empire Strikes Back. So the formula for 7 is the same as the formula for 5, and we loved 5, so it's very good. The formula for this is X-Men and Bryan Singer. The last time that happened
was X-Men
was
2.
X-Men 2, which was, until last night, the best of the series. And as of last night, it's still in the top
Definitely
two.
Top two.
Definitely top 2. Which way they fall,
It's going to be a few more viewings of Days of Future Past before we can decide.
Definitively say.
But it's up there.
It's exactly.
It's definitely up there. It's at worst the second best X-Men film.
Exactly. And it's a lot closer to X2 than it is to the next best.
And can I just tie this in? We should start with the goods and bads.
Yes.
I want to tie this in with what we've just been saying about Godzilla. One of the reasons why Days of Future Past succeeds, where X-Men 3 fell down, Origins is bad for a whole different set of reasons. Wolverine wasn't the film it should have been, and why First Class was a solid 4 out of 5 for Benji.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Is because this film absolutely writes brilliant characters.
Yes.
Okay? Professor X is handled in a way that gives both James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart beautiful things to do. Yep. Fassbender and McKellen are both given, well, less so McKellen perhaps,
not given enough,
but he's still very good,
and he's good at what he does.
But Fassbender's given tons to do.
Yeah.
In First Class, Jennifer Lawrence was an up and comer. Now she's an Oscar winner, and the script writers realised that writing the script. She's given great stuff to do.
Made Mystique a focal point very wisely.
Peter Dinklage is given not as much as I wanted to see of him do, because he's a really good actor, and I wanted to see his tortured villain who thinks he's a good guy that we've heard about in interviews and things. But he's still really good in what I consider to be a reasonably underwritten role. And Hugh Jackman is given the best Wolverine since X-Men 2.
Yeah.
It
reminds you why it's the role of Hugh Jackman's career.
Absolutely. The character, the dialogue, all those human moments or mutant moments are managed beautifully, and by a director who knows how to direct actors.
Yeah.
That's where, in my mind, the success comes from. All the rest of it that works well is bonus footage. Because there's action sequences in The Last Stand. Hell, there's action sequences in Origins, which are quite good. Sorry.
I know, I just don't like hearing it.
But this is good filmmaking within a blockbuster, which is why it's Fox's Avengers, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it is good filmmaking wrapped up in a blockbuster package. That's what it is.
Yeah. It's got a script that cares. It's made by people who care. And it's brilliant. I said earlier, I feel like I slightly misspoke. I said Wolverine is the role of Hugh Jackman's career. I meant it's the role. It's certainly the role that most people identify with him. You know, you say Hugh Jackman, you think Wolverine. You say Wolverine, you think Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
But what I meant to say earlier is, finally, once again, Wolverine is worthy of Hugh Jackman. Because in the last couple of it, well, not the Wolverine. He was pretty well written in the Wolverine.
And his cameo in First Class is
cameo in First Class is perfect. But in X-Men 3 and in Origins, the character wasn't deserving of the excellent actor that I think Hugh Jackman is.
Okay.
And now he is again.
I'll go with that.
I'm glad.
The excellent actor and mediocre producer that Hugh Jackman is.
Yes, Hugh Jackman the producer, as detailed in our audio in our podcast on the subject. Hugh Jackman the producer has a lot to answer for. As far as Origins goes.
Yeah. He's the reverse Michael Douglas. Amazing producer, so-so actor. Jackman's the opposite.
Jackman's the opposite. Yeah.
I like science fiction. It's probably my favourite genre. I like dystopian science fiction. I like seeing things that I'm familiar with ruined. One of my favourite computer games is Fallout.
You must have really liked Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
Zing!
Yeah,
Sorry.
nice,
Sorry.
nice.
Yeah.
And I think that the future sections of Days of Future Past are immaculate.
Yeah.
They are beautiful.
Really
They harken back to the cartoon of the early 90s, which is very influential on me, but at the same time introduce a new spin to it. I love the costumes, it's all very futuristic and very sort of, armoured and black and leather and kind of cool. The Sentinels are a great villain, handled very, very well. The new X-Men are brilliant.
Well, see, I was really chuffed because for a long time I was wondering why pick those particular X-Men. Why is Blink and Warpath in it? I've nothing against them from the comics, but they're not all that interesting.
No.
So I was like, why are they in Days of Future Past over some other ones? And
Yeah.
I was delighted that Bishop's there, but Cable's not, and I love Cable. And Cable wasn't involved in the Days of Future Past comic, but
No.
neither were half of these.
Forge
stars.
wasn't there then.
Yeah, Forge, yeah. And so I was thinking, why these ones? Why have I put these ones? And the reason is because as good as the script is, and without wanting to give too many spoilers, they don't get as much to do dramatic-wise as the actors in the past do. And the few sort of the dramatic moments in the future sequences, it's mostly Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Sean Ashmore, and Ellen Page.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackman. So the rest of them, the kind of...
It's a shame, because I've seen Boo Boo Stewart's Hamlet, and he is...
But the set of powers, and that's where you go, so they're basically there to fend off Sentinels while the actors are doing the dramatic heavy lifting, the other actors are doing the dramatic heavy lifting. And those sequences are amazing.
Yes, they are.
Blink and her portals.
Yes.
And Colossus flying through them. Sunspot, who's basically the Human Torch, looks really good, and you've got him fighting alongside Iceman, which makes sense. It's awesome.
And it goes right back to the beginning of X-Men 2 with Nightcrawler's fight scene to show just how well Bryan Singer can choreograph an action scene. It is phenomenally cool.
Yeah, very, very cool.
It's not meaning to go back and then attack things like Thor and Captain America and Iron Man. Less Iron Man 1, because that's very well put together. But it shows how you can do a fast, frenetic action scene and it still makes sense. You can follow the action even though it's all over the place and the cuts are really fast. It still makes sense all the way through.
Yeah.
Bryan Singer's very, very good at that.
He is.
Yeah.
And it goes further as well, because as much as it sounds like the future stuff is where all the action's happening, it's not. What's great is the stuff in the past. There's some brilliant dramatic stuff going on, but there's a couple of brilliant action sequences as well. Again, I won't describe it in too much detail for fear of spoiling it, but Quicksilver in the Pentagon is the new Nightcrawler in the White House.
It's the new bullet time in the Matrix. It's maybe not technologically that much of a leap forward, but
in terms of use of character and use of camera.
Yeah, it's an outstanding sequence, possibly the best one out of context in the film. Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's so good.
And the guy that plays the guy that plays
Quicksilver. Evan Peters.
He's really good. I need to learn his name because I want to see more of his stuff. He's very, very good. I liked it. I didn't think I'd like Quicksilver, not because of his look, but just because of But he's great. He's really good.
Kick-Ass has got a lot to, he's got big shoes to fill in Avengers 2 now.
The chubby nerdy guy's playing Quicksilver in the Spider-Man movies.
He's playing him in the Spider-Man. Clark Duke.
Yeah.
Playing him in the Spider-Man movies. That should so happen. Get Sony on the blower. That should be a thing. That's how they make up for Oscorp not being in the Avengers skyline. This is how they do it.
I really, really liked. Speaking of action sequences in the past, I really liked the whole climax, again, because of the combination between eye-popping spectacle, which if you've seen the trailers you will know involves a football pitch.
Football stadium, yeah.
And
was it a baseball stadium?
A sports stadium. Sports ball. A stadium and all the dramatic stuff that happens around it that ties the plot in, and it's beautifully written that it links all that plot in together very well in a big action sequence. Again, you've got good acting, good script, good purpose, good message with the big action. It's really well done, beautifully done.
And
cinematography's good.
Yeah. The music!
The music! Hang on,
Oh.
before we get to the music. There's a bit in the middle, kind of in the middle, where they're chasing Mystique. Spoilers. And a lot of it goes into grainy, 70s, flickery, Super 8. Zapruder film, JFK's Zapruder film, kind of, and that's really clever. I like that. That's a nice little touch. Sorry,
that is awesome. Yeah,
Mm.
no, the music. It's John Ottman, which of course it is. It's a Bryan Singer film, and he only ever uses John Ottman, especially these days.
And John Williams for Superman Returns.
Yeah, well, John Williams' music, but he didn't.
No, I know.
Work
Just the theme.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah,
I was being silly.
Yeah. So John Ottman's back, and not just John Ottman scoring a Bryan Singer X-Men movie again, which is obviously something to be excited about, but they reused the themes. They didn't just reuse them. I don't mean to cry and say that they didn't write new stuff. They did. They wrote a lot of new stuff, and they rewrote the stuff they're reusing. They didn't just lift the track again.
Yeah.
But the melody is that awesome theme that I'm pretty sure in a past either vid or podcast we've complained about the lack of it.
We have indeed. Yeah.
That awesome theme song that should be the Danny Elfman's Batman of the X-Men universe is now, because it's the only bit of music that's been in more than one X-Men film. It's in this one as well.
Absolutely. It's the second best piece of X-Men music after the theme tune to the cartoon.
Previously on X-Men.
I would call that the second best bit of X-Men music after this John Ottman theme. But again, much like Days of Future Past and X-Men 2, we're talking both top two, irrespective of how you fall. It's terrific. It's really good. The chemistry between the cast, we know the first class cast works together, and we know the original trilogy cast works together. Certainly the ones that made it into this film as well. All work together really well. And the gamble was will they mesh? And again, they used my gay Hollywood crush as the bridge.
Aye.
And Hugh Jackman just fits with Fast Boy and Tender. He fits with Faster Boy so well.
And I think the moment which is in the trailer where Stewart and McAvoy talk, that again
scene.
Is brilliant. It's edited more differently. What's the grammatical?
It's more heavily edited and stylized than what the trailer.
Yes, the trailer makes it two people talking, whereas there's a lot more sort of editing and camera work and lenses, fisheye lenses used and things like that. But it's a beautiful scene. So Jackman works very well, and that bit works. Yeah, it's brilliant.
And Nicholas Hoult as well. I love. He's. I mean, I enjoyed him very much in the first one, but he's really good in this one as well. And he gets to interact with Wolverine, Beast and Wolverine. Yeah. Beast and Wolverine being buddies. Yeah. Not just falling out for 5 minutes in the middle of X-Men 3. Oh, I love it.
Him and McAvoy. I like very much as a double act when they're introduced and Wolverine goes to the X-Mansion. That's really good as well.
Yeah.
I really like the last scene after the climax, after it's all wrapped up. We get the coda. I don't want to say any more because spoilers, but I really, really like that. If this was the last X-Men film, it would feel right.
It would.
I'm glad it's not, but it would feel right.
Very much.
What else do we really like?
All of it. So much.
Okay,
I feel like there's stuff we haven't talked about.
There is.
We could probably go on for the runtime of the movie. And
there's not all that much that I didn't like, to be honest.
I have one thing, but...
Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah.
Happy? So the only thing that frustrates me, and this is kind of an anti-spoiler, this is something that if it was in the film, me discussing it would be a spoiler, but because it was left out, I suppose it's still a spoiler by definition, but I'll try and be clever. So the viral marketing campaign for this one included an excellent website that you should all check out if it's still up there, thebentbullet.com. Go and have a look. Which it caused a lot of controversy because it involved the film's using of the JFK assassination as a plot point and suggesting the mutants were involved, which of course is a sensitive subject for many.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's done tastefully enough. It's been long enough, and it's hardly the first film to have used real events.
It's a genuine tragedy, and we should be sensitive for it. But it belongs in popular culture so much that
it's no more disrespectful to history than Inglourious Bastards was.
Or Titanic.
Actually, that's a better example, because in fairness, Inglourious Bastards was being disrespectful to Hitler, which I think most people would jump on board.
I think so.
But yeah, Titanic.
Certainly, if you think Hitler was treated unfairly, don't be fans of us anymore.
Yes. Yes. So the JFK assassination is forms part of the plot. And a lot of the viral marketing focuses on the fact that Magneto has been set up as a patsy for it. Or well, as far as the authorities are concerned, he did it, and Magneto's maintaining his innocence. And there's an excellent sort of suggestion by this website, the Bent Bullet, that it was actually Mystique did it and then let Magneto take the blame for her crimes. So the public think it was Lee Harvey Oswald, the government think it was Magneto, but they've covered up the existence of mutants, and in reality it was Mystique screwing over both parties for her own reasons. And I love that, and it doesn't make it into the final cut. The JFK stuff does, and the suggestion that Magneto was blamed for it for the wrong reasons does. But we don't get closure on it, and that bugged me, because that was one of the things I was really excited about going in, because I'd spent time going through this website and I really got into it. I say bugged, and I've never more have I meant bugged. It's tiny. It's not an issue. It's a wonderful bit of marketing that I'm frustrated that it wasn't there, but the film was so good even without it that you certainly couldn't. It's. It's not a major beef by any stretch of the imagination.
I've got two things that I want to talk about. First of all is William Stryker. I don't think he needed to be in it. He didn't really advance the plot. He was kind of underwritten and miscast. He's the only one of the main or secondary characters who wasn't really good. He wasn't bad. Yeah. Certainly wasn't bad. But I could have done without him. Yeah. He was distracting almost.
He's one of the few things, I say few things, I suppose a lot of it would depend on knowledge of the other films. But Stryker in particular, if you didn't know his history with Wolverine, you would wonder why, even more so you would wonder why he's in it at all. He really...
I think the flashbacks in the first meeting together, the flashbacks give you enough.
Maybe, yeah.
Possibly, but I agree. The other thing that bugged me is that this was meant to be the film that tied up all the inconsistencies between the first two X-Men, X-Men 3 and X-Men First Class. And it doesn't. It makes a lot of them less of a problem, but there are some that it still doesn't, and that's it. If they're the gripes you're really going for, it's really not that bad a film, is it?
It's not that bad a film at all, no.
Yeah, it was really good. Again, maybe it's because it's so recently, maybe it's just because I wasn't expecting bad things, but I should have been, given the franchise.
Given how often we've been hurt before by comic book movies in general, and this franchise in particular.
And Bryan Singer back with the X-Men, it couldn't have been as good as we hoped, and I think I'm fair to say it was.
It was, yeah. I completely agree.
So yeah.
Bring on Apocalypse. Bring on Apocalypse now.
Yeah. Post-credit sequence. Stay for the...
Worth staying for.
Yeah. So...
It really is Fox's Avengers. They've got the Marvel Studios post-credit sequence. Yeah.
Let's give it our ratings then, shall we?
Okay.
Well, you go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm going to give it 4. I'm swithering for 5.
I'm gonna.
If 4.5 could be a thing.
Well, why can't it?
Can 4.5 be a thing?
Let's make it 4.5.
4.5.
I will give it 4.5
half a star
also
for the JFK Mystique thing.
Yeah. So 9 out of 10. It's very,
it's very good.
If in a few months' time we've calmed down and it's not, we'll maybe do a retraction. That's not going to happen. It's brilliant. Yeah. Go and see it. Go and see them both, but go and see X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so.
Right. Well. I think that's us.
That's it. That is us, yeah.
We didn't have a feature to tag on to the end here, but that's okay.
That's okay. I think we've got enough meat out of those two.
I think we've,
a lot of meat on Godzilla
and Wolverine has a clause to kebab it off. Right, so stay tuned for our next vidcast. Not quite sure what's on the plate for next time.
No, we've got Edge of Tomorrow's on the way out. That'll probably get watched.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll see.
We'll pick something really good.
When we know, you'll know.
in the near future. Maybe something not blockbustery. I don't know.
Yeah.
We did.
Let's do a double bill of a couple of episodes of Seinfeld.
Yes.
Let's
All right.
do that.
Cool. Anyway, we'll see you next time, and thank you very much for watching.
Bye now.